There have been a lot of requests on the support page for how to use the LinnStrument with the EaganMatrix module, so I thought I'd do a video that just addresses that. First thing we want to look at is how to connect up the LinnStrument to the EaganMatrix module, and there are a few different ways to do this. My favorite way is to simply power the LinnStrument with some USB power source. It could be your computer, it could be a battery pack, it could be anything that puts out the USB 5 volt that'll power the LinnStrument. And then I just connect directly MIDI out of the LinnStrument to MIDI in of the EaganMatrix module with a standard MIDI DIN cable and TRS to DIN adapter that comes with the module. This gives you a simple method of playing the module directly from the LinnStrument without any external computer involved. Another option, perhaps you're already using the MIDI out of the LinnStrument connecting to something else. You could connect USB to the MIDI host and take a DIN MIDI out of the USB host to the MIDI in of the EaganMatrix module, just like we did before. You'll have to power the MIDI host in this case. You could throw a USB hub in the mix here and connect everything with the USB host to the MIDI hub and not use a direct MIDI DIN connector at all. Another option, if you plan on using the Haken editor while you're playing, you can connect the LinnStrument and the EaganMatrix module through USB to your computer, and then you can bring up the MIDI and global settings in the Haken editor and select the LinnStrument option for external music 1 or 2 if you're using another external music interface, and then you can play through the editor directly. The only thing here, make sure that you connect your instruments up before you bring up the editor. And there are probably a few other ways you can connect, but that's a good starter. So now, how do I configure the LinnStrument? The first thing is we want to use the LinnStrument in MPE mode so we can use the module as it's intended as an MPE instrument, multi-channel of course, and polyphonic up to 8 voices. Set the LinnStrument to channel per note, MIDI mode, and also view per note channel. Now we have to decide how many voices to set for MPE. Remember, the EaganMatrix module is a 2 DSP device that can support up to 8 channels of MPE MIDI. Channel 1 is not used for MPE, so the full support of this would be channels 2 to 9 to take advantage of all 8 channels polyphonically of the EaganMatrix module. Not all presets, however, are set to use 8 or more MIDI channels, so you have to look at your preset to determine if its polyphony is set less than that and set the channels here accordingly. If your polyphony is set to say only 4 and you set 8 channels, you could be playing on channels that are not supported and you'll get dropped notes. Some EaganMatrix presets like Tin Whistle only are set for 1 channel, in which case you'll set 1 here as well. Most EaganMatrix presets are set at least 3 plus, which means 3 polyphony expanded. Expanded multiplies times the number of DSPs your processor supports. So if you have a 3 plus preset and a 2x DSP, as in the EaganMatrix module, that will support up to 6 voices. So you'd want to bring this down to channels 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 for presets that are set 3 plus. In terms of bend range, most EaganMatrix presets are set to 96, so you'll want to go into the LinnStrument and set that to 96. If for some reason your preset uses a different value, you can match that on the LinnStrument. Pitch, or X, I like to set it to quantized hold and on. You can set this to the other options if you want. Perhaps you just want to play purely quantized. You could do that. Y typically will be set on and to CC74. This is optional, and the reason why I say optional is like the ContinuuMini, the Y range on the LinnStrument only spans the height of 1 cell. And some presets might use a lot of Y, and in that case, like on the ContinuuMini, you could get some discontinuities resulting if you're constantly moving across Y boundary. We'll look at an example of that. Finally, you'll set loudness to channel pressure. Set it on and to channel pressure. Don't set it to polyphonic pressure. And that should do it for you. Let's bring up the Haken editor and say a few words in terms of settings for this in relationship to playing through the LinnStrument. I'm running version 9.95 firmware here. I'll go to Control Panel C1 and I'll look at Polyphony. Base 3 plus with increased computation rate. In this case for saw blades, which is the first preset that normally comes with the EaganMatrix Module user preset distribution. We already said that 3 plus means expanded polyphony. So this preset would normally have 6 voices, polyphony base 3 times the 2 DSP expansion, which would be 6 voices, but this increased computation rate also can reduce your voices. As a rule of thumb, reduce them by half, which means this preset, ideally from the LinnStrument perspective, should be set to only 3 voices, channels 2, 3, and 4. Now, if it works for you and you want to get more voices, just bump that up one, and if the preset still plays fine, you're good to go. If the preset starts breaking up in any way, you know you'll have to go back down to 3. In some cases, you may load a preset and you hear something's breaking up to begin with. In that case, try reducing polyphony by 1. Rounding is another thing you need to pay some attention to. If you play your LinnStrument and you expect slides and portamentos and you don't hear them, that could be because the rounding for that preset is set extremely high. If that's the case, then no matter what you set on your LinnStrument, you will always get rounded output. If we go to panel C3, so whether you set MPE plus or set that to MPE, your LinnStrument settings we discussed should still work. If, however, Z is set to something like CC11, then channel pressure will do you no good on your LinnStrument and you'll have to set your LinnStrument to CC11 as well. That's one of the options on the front panel. If you load a preset up and Z is set to something else, well then you'll want to set Z to CC11 so you can match it on the LinnStrument. Now let's say a few things about playing the LinnStrument. The way we have it set up, I'm playing the saw blades preset. I've set it up so they only have channels 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And as we said, this preset uses allow increased computation rate. So I may have some issues if I play it with more than 3 voices. Channel pressure should respond very nicely. As I press harder, volume increases, and that should be independent on voices. Which is very nice. Let's play 4 voices, however. Can you hear when I bring that 4th voice in? It's got a little bit of a discontinuity going on. That doesn't happen when I only play 3 voices. That's because this is using that increased computation rate. So if you bring a preset up that doesn't use that, you should be good playing through whatever the preset polyphony is. Let's say Woodwind is base 4 plus, so this should allow you all 8 voices. And that seems to work okay. In terms of slides, that should work very nicely. We've set to 96. That matches the preset. And X should give you a nice vibrato as well. That matches your finger motion. Going from note to note's no issue. even playing fast notes. And as long as we keep for this preset on 3 notes, chord should be fine. Well, let's bring up a preset that's 1 voice, tin whistle. In this case, it's only going to recognize 1 voice. So if I play Polyphony, nothing's going to happen. I can actually get some portamento between notes on this because it's only set to Polyphony 1. And the change on the LinnStrument will support that. But on this preset, we have Y being used. Top of Y, it goes into this overblown mode, which if you're playing normally, you can get that discontinuity resulting unless you play on the bottom half of Y when you want to get the bass sound out, and only play in the top half of Y when you want that overblown effect. But that's very difficult to do. So what I might want to do now is go in and set this to some Y setting that's not going to send out CC74. And now when I play, I don't have to worry about that cutoff between bottom and top of Y. I still can get my nice vibrato, but I don't have that discontinuity that results because of the Y split. So there you go, basic LinnStrument operation. I hope this video helps those who want to play the EaganMatrix module with the LinnStrument. I find it's a great way to play the module, really fun, and all the controllers I've used on it, to be honest, I happen to like this one the best.